Alright, we're going to play a little game today. I want you to imagine that you've got $10,000 to spend on a handbag, either for you or for someone who you know. If you don't spend all the $10,000, it's lost. It gets donated to something awful, right? So you've got to spend as much of the $10,000 and you have to get this decision right. This is really important. You or they are going to be very upset if you buy a bad handbag. Now I'm going to show you two websites and I want you to think about which one of these is most likely to meet your needs in this situation, what your decision criteria are going to be and how you're going to choose this handbag. Okay, here's the first website. So what do we see straight away? We see a picture of these handbags being paraded in front of lots of people. This looks like a high-end setting. There's a huge amount of credibility here. The headline demonstrates status. The Chanel handbag. Then we have some handbags. Each Chanel handbag bears the iconic codes, constantly reinterpreted and expresses the allure of Chanel. Scrolling down, we see the campaign, featuring people that we know. Looks glitzy. Then we've got iconic codes. Here we're talking about the manufacturing, the components of the handbag. If we scroll down further, we actually get to see these handbags being made by hand. Remember, in this game, you have to spend the $10,000. You have to get the best possible handbag that you can. Then we've got what I would call product categories, what Chanel calls the latest collections. The call to action, find more in a boutique or contact an advisor. Now I'm going to show you a different site and I want you to think which of these two websites is most likely going to meet your needs given that you've got to spend this $10,000 on a handbag. Et voila! Okay, a very different type of site, let's be honest. Now, we're not even talking here about the quality of the handbags. What I want you to think about is how these handbags are presented. The first thing that stands out because of their presentation is that even though they're trying to build scarcity, showing that they've only got 3 left, there is absolutely no scarcity implied here. These do not feel like special products because of how they're presented, because of how many of them there are on a page, and because of the fact that they're all sort of jumbled together. This feels like a commodity purchase. But there are lots of other cues on this page that tell us that this is targeted to a very different audience than our $10,000 per bag spenders. Alright, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by breaking down every element of this. The point of this is that there are 3 signals going on here which let you know that this is a very different type of product. Now, if the rules of our game were that you had $20 to spend on a handbag, your selection criteria would be very, very different. In that case, this website would feel entirely inappropriate, because it's obvious just from landing on this page that these are not $20 handbags. Well, what's going on here is the subject of today's video, because this sort of process, whilst not as extreme, is happening on your website every day. People are making judgments about your business, positively and negatively, both through what's being said, but also what's being communicated underneath that. Now, the difficult thing about all of this is that whilst this is obvious to outsiders, sometimes it's really difficult for the people who run the websites or own the business to see this stuff for exactly how it is. Now, why is all of this important? Well, this is important because you might be unknowingly giving some of your target customers the ick with some of the messaging and some of the things that you're communicating on your website, even if those things aren't being explicitly said. Now, if I can tell you a story, the information and the advice and the demonstrations from today's video actually come from a product that we built inside Exposure Ninja called the Brand Accelerator. Now, Exposure Ninja used to mainly focus on driving traffic to our clients' websites through things like SEO, content marketing, paid search, paid social, email marketing. And what we found is that when we drove traffic to people's websites, that traffic didn't always perform. We would then do conversion rate optimization, where we change around some of the elements on the page, we add some certain words, we move things around, we maybe change the look of certain sections, but sometimes even that didn't get the results that we needed. What we ended up finding was that there was some more fundamental ick that was going on when people were landing on our client's site. It wasn't really about the conversion optimization. It wasn't necessarily about the copy. It wasn't necessarily about the images that they were using on their website. Actually, it was a combination of all of these things which made their brand feel a little unattractive to their target audience. So we developed this service called the Brand Accelerator to help remove this ick, to help fix the blockage that was preventing their websites from performing better. And it means that everything else that's done from a digital marketing perspective to their websites improves. And fixing these unknown icks means that the performance of the traffic improves dramatically, because we're no longer repulsing people who are landing on the website or even just giving them the wrong signals about the business. Now, we've all been told not to judge books by their covers. The thing is, we all do. In fact, that's what book covers are for. It's human nature. We can't help make a snap judgment. So imagine that you have a dermatology appointment at Lichton House in Devon. You go onto the website and you see this. How excited are you about your visit? Unless you happen to be a fan of traffic cones, probably not that excited. The staff might be fantastic. The care might be absolutely superb. They might have thousands of positive customer reviews. But unfortunately, there's just something about this page that isn't screaming, "We care." So we know that it's important to have an attractive brand. And of course, this means having a nice looking logo and great color scheme, and making sure that color scheme is consistently applied across your site, making sure your business has a good visual identity. But this is about more than that. This is about understanding what's most important to your customers and making sure that you communicate that. Going back to the Chanel and Temu examples, Chanel knows that they want to communicate high-end, luxury, scarcity, even worship. Well, what does Temu want to communicate? Temu wants to communicate price. Temu wants to communicate the fact that these handbags are almost unbelievably cheap. And that goes all the way down to the color choices on the site, with orange sometimes being very value driven, but it's definitely very action driven, very excitement driven. They want this to feel a bit like a game, with the countdown timers and the numbers being sold. Is this going to run out? So what I'm not saying is you need a brand that looks like Chanel's. What I'm saying is you need a brand that communicates the things that you want it to communicate via your website. Let's look at another example. Now I want you to imagine you're having your teeth made all nice and you want to go to a dentist that's going to do this. Now think about what your criteria might be and what you want your dentist to communicate via their website. Now, by the way, neither of these sites have any affiliation with Exposure Ninja. I just chose them at random. But let's look at the first one here. It's very clear on this page that this practice has decided to focus on the people in the practice. Here they all are with their beautiful smiles. They are selling the team, and there's a reassurance that comes with that. Let's look at this practice here. Now, the way that this practice presents online, and this may or may not be true, is much more generic. We can see clearly stock photos in the header. If we scroll down, we have a picture of their practice, which, although the hedge has been recently trimmed, I wouldn't say this reflects as well on the practice as a picture of the team might. We've got some copy, but it feels fairly generic. And we do have this qualification type thing, but that's kind of it. So again, this isn't about just being more attractive than your competitors. This is about making sure you're communicating the things that are going to mean something to your target audience. Let's look at an example of a client that we've worked with at Exposure Ninja. This is Wavefront Software, fantastic business. This is software that helps laboratories manage their data and their processes. Now, before we helped Wavefront with this, we can see that the site was fairly generic, right? It didn't really communicate what they wanted it to communicate. We can see a very sort of basic and relatively unattractive workflow thing, and then there's a footer, and that's kind of it. So if you're a potential customer coming onto this, the chances are you wouldn't be massively impressed with this. It doesn't communicate anything really. But what we did is we helped them work out what was going to be most important to their customers. We replaced the generic headline with something that emphasized the efficiency and configurability of their software, which is what we identified their customers really wanted from the software. We then built credibility triggers right into the homepage and featured the team really prominently. Now, of course, there's loads of conversion optimization pieces in here, and we worked with Wavefront to map out the layout of this homepage based on their users' feedback and what it was going to take to convert those users into booking demos. And all of this was guided by the feedback from the Wavefront team and also their customers. We spoke directly to their customers to understand what really meant the most to them. And that's really important, but we'll come back to that in just a minute. In the meantime, if you're looking at this thinking, I really want a third party and outside perspective on my website and how I might be stacking up according to these criteria, then feel free to request a free website and marketing review from the team at Exposure Ninja. We'll take a look at your website and analyze it according to some of these criteria. We'll break down exactly what your competitors are doing to drive traffic to their websites and how their websites are stacking up in these areas too. We'll turn all of this information into a 15 to 20 minute video, which we email to you completely free of charge. Now, not everyone is eligible for this service, so you do need to request it at exposureninja.com/review. There's a short questionnaire to fill in, and then if you're eligible, we'll usually be able to do your review for you within 3 to 5 working days. If you're not eligible, don't worry, we have some other ways that we can help you get this review, and we also have some free stuff that we can send you as well. So go to exposureninja.com/review to request your free website and digital marketing review today. Okay, the next way to make your website work harder is to focus on the offer that you're presenting to the visitors. You can have a great looking website with really well laid out information that resonates really tightly, says all the right things, does all the right things, shows all the right things, but it can still underperform if it's not incentivizing people to take that next step in the customer journey with you. So how exactly do you do that? Well, you do that with a great, compelling offer. This is the thing that you want people to do on your website in order to come into your marketing funnel. Now, we've talked about this loads on the Exposure Ninja channel, so I'm not going to go into loads of detail here, but I would like to show you an example. Here's a site for a local business in the States that sells granite and marble. Now, when they came to us, they had these 2 calls to action: contact us and call us. And whilst those were ideal for the business, because yes, we want phone calls and yes, we want contacts, for a potential customer who's landed straight on this page, they were a bit too forward, and they also didn't perceive any real value from doing this if they hadn't identified that the business would be a good fit yet. Elsewhere on this page, we identified that there was room to improve the performance of this website, as well as doing what we were talking about in step 1, where we're just tuning it up visually, making it look more appealing and making sure we're hitting those customer desires. In the updated version, yes, we still have 2 calls to action, but these are both focused on the customer. So if I'm a customer, I either want an appointment, I want to talk to someone, in which case we can schedule an appointment, or I want a free quote, in which case we can get a free quote. Now, people can still call from the site, the phone number's still visible, it's still clickable or tappable on mobile. But what we're doing is we're giving the customer choices that they actually want to choose between. Elsewhere on this page, we're really focused on handling objections and building credibility of the business. You can see that from the credibility triggers straight above the fold here. We've got some information about why this business stands out against its competitors. We also explain the process, and we found that this is really important from talking to their customers. We realized that people didn't really understand the process. They didn't know what would happen next. So we thought, okay, let's actually explain that on the homepage, because that's going to answer some people's questions that they would have to have answered before they would request this consultation. Overall, this homepage ticks a lot more of their potential customers' boxes and looks like the sort of thing that their potential customers would want to see from a company that is delivering really high-end, beautiful countertops. Now let's talk again about customer connection, because if that customer connection just isn't there when people land on your site, the reality is you're unlikely to get the conversion and you're unlikely to be getting the right sort of leads or sales to your business. Okay, we're gonna play another game. This time you're in a bad situation. You've just been accused, or your business has just been accused of running misleading advertising, and you need an advertising specialist attorney. You don't know anything about this area, you've never been in this type of situation before, so you're feeling a little stressed. A little is an underestimation. You're feeling very, very stressed. You want someone reliable who's going to help you through this process. I'm going to show you a couple of websites, and let's think about what you would need to see in order to contact one of these attorneys. Okay, so here's the first example. This is Venable LLP. I have no affiliation with either of these businesses, so if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Okay, first example, Venable, what do we think of it? Well, on first impression, it looks clean, it looks professional. This is a nicely designed site. The logo looks very authoritative. By the way, look at how judgmental we're being, but this is exactly what's going on. We've got a page here that's all about advertising and marketing, okay. We've got a national full service team. Okay, I don't really know what that means, but great, it sounds big. And then we've got copy. We've got some other advertising and marketing services, and then we've got some related practices. Okay, so from what we've seen so far, would you be contacting this firm? Well, you might be, but let's be honest, there's room to improve on this. We'll talk about exactly how we would do that in just a minute. Let's look at the next example. Now, being totally honest, I don't think this website looks as good as the first one. It's not as nicely laid out, but it does do some important things that the first one doesn't do. Firstly, it immediately establishes credibility. Efficient, thorough, and highly professional. And that's from the Legal 500, no doubt. Then we've also got contact details above the fold and a picture of a person. If I'm feeling highly stressed, having a picture of a person is really reassuring. They're going to help me. He's also smiling. He's not in tears. He's not running away. This is good news. I feel reassured. Now, there's still no call to action. There's no next step offer. There's no way of funneling people through. I can see some information about their legal service. I can see the fact that they're ranked and that they're a leading firm, which is great for credibility, and then it just sort of ends. Of course, your criteria might be slightly different depending on where your business is at. You might want a firm that looks lower cost. You might want a firm that looks really high cost. You might want a firm that has lots of people. You might want a firm that has few people. But whatever the specific things that you need, you probably want to see reassurance, you want to see trustworthiness, and you want to see people. This is important. You want people above the fold, and ideally there'll be some sort of clear next step to funnel you through into their sales process, which they won't call a sales process, but it is a sales process. Now, the important thing is that you find out what your customers want. This isn't about me telling you what your customers want. Yes, there are going to be some things that every customer wants, but it's most important to talk to your customers. We actually do this for our clients, where we will ring up some of our clients' customers and talk to them. Find out what was most important to them, what situation they were in before they got in contact, what they would need to see, what they did see that turned them on, what they didn't see which may have turned them off. We then put all of these recommendations into an action plan to help improve the performance of the website. Let me give you an example of when we've done this. We worked with this fantastic business, which is a very small custom PC builder in the UK. When we started working with them, this is what their website looked like. And although there was some credibility here, the UK's #1 custom PC builder, rated excellent, and they have a 3-year warranty, overall this website was quite intimidating. It's great if you know exactly what you want to buy and you know all of the spec. You can go through and you can find a PC that matches your spec. But when we talked to their customers, it turned out actually that wasn't the situation that their customers were in at all. Actually, a lot of their customers had never bought this type of product before. They wanted to talk to someone to help them through the process to make sure that they didn't buy the wrong thing. So actually, this was really intimidating and confusing, and no one was just clicking and buying on these PCs anyway. So what we did is we helped them re-engineer their above the fold section. We've kept these items in the benefits bar, but rather than leading with the PCs, we're actually leading with, we can help give you expert help to configure your PC. This exactly matches what their customer wants. How do we know this? Because we ask the customers. Now, the great thing is this type of work is a one-time investment. If you spend time investing in talking to your customers or working with a firm that does this, you can make that money back forever. When we did this for this client, they saw a return on investment very quickly, and they're going to be benefiting from that for the rest of this website's life. Of course, it's not just about what happens when your customer lands on the website, it's also about what happens after and what your follow-up is like with them, particularly through email. That's why you need really strong email automation on the back end to nurture these new leads as you turn them into customers over time. Watch this video to find out exactly how to do that.